and welcome. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different, which is talk about Oscar nominations. I am a huge Oscar buff. I follow it closely every year. I throw parties at my house where we all bet on our ballots and try to predict who are the winners in all the categories. I love Oscar season. It's my favorite time of the year. I don't think it's about the best movies of the year, but I just think it's really fascinating that there's this whole ecosystem about awarding movies, and I just love to play the guessing game. So today I want to react to some of the nominations and maybe even try to make some early predictions. When we are closer to the ceremony, March 12th, I will put out a video where I do all my predictions. I'll put out my ballot, so if you're betting at home, you can maybe use that. I tend to do pretty well with my predictions. I don't always get all of them right, but I tend to do pretty well. No, not wanting to brag here, but already bragging. So it's just something really fun that I love to do. So let's take a look at some of the categories. I'm not going to do all of them today. So the first category we can talk about today is actress in a supporting role. Something really interesting is happening here where Angela Bassett has been nominated for her role in Wakanda Forever, Black Panther movie. It's the first time any Marvel movie has ever received an Oscar nomination for acting. So a really interesting thing. Another interesting little statistic here is that Angela is one of only 4 actors who have previously gotten Oscar nominations. This is a really fresh batch. 16 out of the 20 acting nominees between Best Actor, Best Actress, Supporting, and both have never gotten an Oscar nomination before. So that's right now, I would probably place my bet on Angela Bassett just based on some of the awards she's already won in this season so far. Lots can change until Oscar night. I'll probably reevaluate this as we get closer to the ceremony itself. But as of now, I would put Angela as the front runner. Other things that are interesting here is Everything Everywhere All at Once showing up twice. A lot of people didn't know if Stephanie Hsu was going to show up, and she definitely did. Jamie Lee Curtis is getting her first Oscar nomination ever, which is really wild to think about. So really exciting nomination there. And Hong Chau got in for The Whale, which people weren't really sure if she was going to get in or not, even though very well-deserved, amazing performance. The Whale is getting some mixed feelings with the voters, but it has shown up more than a lot of people expected in the nominations morning. Next, let's talk about actor in a supporting role. This is a really, really great group of people. This was probably one of the most open races as far as nominations went. People didn't really know how to fill in these 5 slots, so we ended up with these nominees right here. This one is pretty much a lock. If there is one category that we already know who's pretty much, we know who's going to win, it's this one, and it's Ke Huy Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. He's been sweeping. He's won every precursor award so far. He gives amazing speeches. Everybody loves a good comeback story. So this one's pretty much a lock. I doubt that my predictions will change, so this would definitely be on my ballot. Some surprises here include Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway. A lot of people didn't see that coming. Judd Hirsch got in for The Fabelmans, which is really great. And then Banshees of Inisherin for Barry Keoghan and Brendan Gleeson filling up those last 2 spots. So lots of love for Banshees of Inisherin. Definitely a strong contender in other categories. We can talk about that later. But lock for Ke Huy Quan. So let's talk about original screenplay. Nice and a little segue. This is a really great batch as well. I think nothing too surprising here in this batch. Right now, I would place my bet on Banshees of Inisherin because the Academy seems to really love that movie. Martin McDonagh is a very beloved filmmaker. He's been awarded before with 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. He's really beloved in the industry. I wouldn't be surprised if Banshees of Inisherin took this one, even though Everything Everywhere All at Once is obviously a very strong contender. I would place those 2 as the front runners. We still have some awards. The WGA awards could give us a really good indication as to where the Academy is leaning towards. So this is another one where closer to the ceremony itself, we'll reevaluate. So adapted screenplay, really interesting batch here. All Quiet on the Western Front did really, really well as far as nominations went. It's the 2nd most nominated movie. It has 9 nominations behind Everything Everywhere All at Once, which got 11, and definitely the front runner right now. People love that movie. It's a Netflix movie. It's a war movie. It's an international movie, and it's doing really, really, really well in this award season. Other interesting contender here is Top Gun Maverick. I think people did predict that this movie would get some Academy Award nominations, but not necessarily an adapted screenplay. That was definitely surprising to me. Glass Onion and Living, other ones here, but I think right now I would place my bet on Women Talking. People really like that screenplay. People love Sarah Polley. I would put that one as a contender right now, but again, that could change. But just a really interesting batch of screenplays there. Okay, so let's talk about original song, best original song. One of the most chaotic categories every year. It's really hard to predict. Always a really great batch of songs. I love this this category because of that, because it's a little hard to predict. I was so sure Lin-Manuel Miranda was gonna win his EGOT a couple years for last year for We Don't it wasn't We Don't Talk About Bruno, they nominated the wrong song, right? But he didn't. He lost to Billie Eilish and Phineas, who did the 007 song. So it's a really hard one to predict. I have no idea who's going to win. I think it's worth mentioning that Diane Warren, every year almost, is able to sneak in a nomination. Nobody had ever heard of this movie. Nobody was expecting her to get nominated this year, yet here she is. Both Lady Gaga, Rihanna have songs there, so I think that's really interesting. But I think Natu Natu from RRR is probably like my favorite nomination. There is a chance they win. They won the Golden Globes. It's not the same voting body, but still a good indication that people love that song. Can't wait to see this song's performed. As far as predictions, I have absolutely no clue who's going to win. If I had to fill out my ballot today, I would probably do Natu Natu. But again, we'll check in again closer to the ceremony. Right, international feature film. I think right now it's probably it's between All Quiet on the Western Front, which I would consider the front runner, and Argentina 1985. It's an Amazon movie. It's Argentina's entry, obviously. It's getting a lot of love. I'm pretty sure it won the Golden Globes for Best International Feature. So we'll see. The BAFTAs will be a good indication for this one. I'm pretty sure All Quiet on the Western Front's going to take this one home because it's doing so well with nominations, and this is the obvious place to reward it. Animated feature film. I love this category, even though Disney and Pixar tend to completely dominate the wavelength. They completely dominate this field. But right now, I think it's really interesting. A very interesting batch of movies. I love that Marcel the Shell with Shoes On got in. I think that was really surprising. Puss in Boots, which was a wonderful movie in my opinion, made it in as well. The Sea Beast is a Netflix movie, and then Pixar / Disney showing up with Turning Red, also a movie people really, really loved. But I think Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is the front runner by far, in my opinion. The Academy absolutely loves him. They love this movie. This movie is a masterpiece. It's so well done. It took a million years to get made. So I think it's the prettiest, obvious front runner here. I might be wrong. I might reevaluate. But right now, I feel like that's the interesting one. That's the one to beat. Okay, film editing tends to be a really good predictor as well. It's really hard for a movie to not get nominated for editing to have any chance at winning Best Picture. Right now, I would place it between Everything Everywhere All at Once and Top Gun. Sometimes people vote for the movie with like the most editing and not necessarily the best editing, but I would consider those two the front runners. I think it was a pretty predictable category. So Banshees, Elvis is probably in the mix there as well. Everything Everywhere All at Once, Tar, and Top Gun Maverick. But yeah, I would place my bets on either Top Gun Maverick or Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think we'll have some indication before the ceremony which one is the clear front runner there. Okay, cinematography. Cinematography is interesting because we actually have a woman nominated, Mandy Walker, and the reason that's important is no woman has ever won this award, which is insane. I don't think that should be the reason for someone to take it home, but if she did take it home, I would be really happy. Right now, just looking at this batch, I would have to place my bet on Roger Deakins. Empire of Light is a movie that looks really great, and he's a legend and people love him, so I think he's a front runner right now. Okay, actor in a leading role. This is a really, really juicy category because it is a three-way race. I have no idea who I would place my bet on right now. It is definitely right now between Austin Butler, Colin Farrell, and Brendan Fraser, and they all have very strong cases to be made for them. Brendan Fraser has the obvious comeback story narrative, which people love. He does a really great performance in The Whale, but people seem a little lukewarm on the movie itself. So it will be interesting to see how well he does. If he takes BAFTA is going to be a really good indication and a really good direction that we can follow to see who wins. If Colin Farrell doesn't win BAFTA, I'd say he's out of the race, because if he can't get rewarded by the British group of voting people, I know he's not British, but anyway, I still think that would be a really strong indication that he's not really a big part of this race. Colin and Austin both won Golden Globes. Again, Golden Globes are not a really strong precursor, but it's just something to keep in mind. But I would say it's between Brendan Fraser, Colin Farrell, and Austin Butler for Elvis. Austin Butler changed his voice. He does a really great job in that movie, regardless of what you think of the movie itself. He's really good in it. So we'll see. But this is definitely a three-way race, and I love to see it. Moving on. Actress in a leading role. I want to mention one thing, which is Andrea Riseborough showing up here. I almost fell out of my seat during nomination mornings, and here's why. All of these other actresses had very strong campaigns behind them. They had publicists, they had for your consideration ads on the Hollywood Reporter and whatnot. Andrea Riseborough had a really interesting grassroots campaign. Some people called it organic. It wasn't exactly organic, it was very planned. But all over Twitter, all these actors and actresses were tweeting kind of the same thing. It was like a copy-paste tweet thing where it's like, small movie with a big heart, whatever, nominate Andrea Riseborough for a movie called To Leslie. And I don't think no one really thought that campaign was going to go anywhere. And here she is. She showed up as a Best Actress nomination. And that is just wild to me. I think that this is going to change campaigning a little bit, because it was so grassroots. It was so last minute. They did it over like the 10 days before before voting started for nominations, and she made it in. Wild. Just jumping in here, since I recorded this video, there's been some updates. The Academy is looking into this award campaign. It thinks it might have violated some rules, specifically naming the competition in some emails that somebody sent and asking people to vote for that movie in first place. They're conducting a review. Unlikely that it's actually going to rescind her nomination, but stay tuned for any updates along that. It is, I think there was a little surprise with Ana de Armas as well. People didn't think Blonde was going to do too well, but she did get her nomination. She probably bumped out Danielle Deadwyler for Till, which people were really excited to see her get nominated, so it's a bummer that she wasn't. Right now, it's between Cate Blanchett for Tar and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. My heart's telling me it's Michelle Yeoh's year this year. Cate Blanchett has won awards before. She just got one recently where her speech was about how awards don't matter, and people don't want to see that. People want to see someone have their moment on stage. It's also about that. We would love for it to be something very purist as far as who gave the best performance, but that's only one part of the equation, even though I do think Michelle Yeoh did an amazing job, and it would be so deserved. I do think that's who takes it. I think Michelle Yeoh takes it. Interesting that Michelle Williams shows up here as well. Some people thought she was going to be nominated as Best Supporting, where she would probably have a way better chance to win. But here she is as nominated for Best Lead Actress and for The Fabelmans. But I think it's between Michelle Yeoh and Cate Blanchett at this time. Directing, a very interesting group of men. 6 men, because it's 2 Daniels, right? Getting nominated for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Right here, I think it's a pretty open race between the Daniels, Martin McDonagh, I would even say, and Spielberg. I have this feeling right now that Steven Spielberg is going to take it. The movie itself is not doing so well, but I think a lot of people are going to want to see him rewarded for The Fabelmans. He hasn't really won anything since Schindler's List. He's actually a really awarded director for the status that he has. So right now my heart's telling me The Fabelmans, so we shall see. And of course, last but not least, I mean, there's way more categories, but we don't have to cover every single one. I just want to kind of point out the big ones right now. It's Best Picture. This year we have 10 nominees. That's the rule now, right? It was 5 for a very long time, then it was somewhere between 5 and 10, and now it's 10. So every year we get 10 nominees. This is a really interesting batch of movies as well. I think Women Talking was really the big surprise there. People weren't really sure. I would say that one and Triangle of Sadness were kind of up in the air, because Woman King and and After Sun. There were some movies that people those are some movies people thought might get in, but ultimately it was Women Talking. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is the front runner right now. It is a very beloved movie by critics, by audiences, probably by the voters. It's leading with nominations. I don't think it's necessarily going to sweep. It's definitely going to get a couple of acting awards. I think here it has a very strong chance for getting Best Picture. I think Banshees of Inisherin is probably in second place in my opinion, but I'm not really sure. But really, really interesting group of movies there. I think All Quiet on the Western Front showing up as Best Picture, even though it's an international picture. This has become almost a little bit of a tradition that the Oscars nominate one international movie as part of the Best Picture lineup, but I don't really think it has a chance. Avatar might always surprise people. It's this massive movie that people really tend to like, but I still think that ultimately it's going to be Everything Everywhere All at Once right now. So thanks for watching my predictions, and check in closer to the Oscars March 12th, and I'm going to have my final predictions and put out my ballot for there if you guys want to take a look at it. Thank you. Bye.